right, greetings, programs, and welcome to the Gaming Outsider, the podcast all about video games and a community that plays them. We are live from the Blue Box Cafe in Elgin, Illinois for the second annual podcast marathon hosted by Southgate Media Group. This is actually our first appearance at this event, and we're very gracious to Rob and Chris and everyone else involved for allowing us to be a part of this world record-breaking event. Very cool stuff. For those of you guys not familiar with our show, we're a very community-driven podcast about video games. It's my favorite hobby, probably Chris's as well, too, I have to assume.
Oh, yes.
We started this about a year ago because we were tired of all the negativity surrounding our favorite hobby. So we've adopted the tagline or motto, there's no such thing as a bad game, just games that aren't for you. Now, we don't necessarily take that stance literally, but the point is that we try to look at video games in a positive light while still being critically fair when reviewing the games that we play. So today, here's what we're going to do. We're going to be talking quickly about some games that we've been playing. We've also got a tiny bit of news we'll talk about, and then we're going to spend the majority of our time talking about the Nintendo Entertainment System Classic Edition, which is going to be releasing this November just in time for Christmas. So we're very, very excited about that. Before I get to my guest today, I'd like to tell you how you can find our show. All of our episodes can be found on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play Music, TuneIn Radio, or our RSS feed on our website, which is thegamingoutsider.com. My name is Scott Clark. I'm your host. I host the show every week. I'm joined today by one of our regular guests on the show, one of the biggest Nintendo fanboys I know and my personal friend, Chris Owens. Chris, how you doing today?
I am fantastic. I am excited, and I'm honored to be a part of this event. This is a lot of fun, and this is great.
Well, thanks so much for being here. I got to give a shout-out to Josh, who is one of my co-hosts on the show.
Yes.
He was supposed to be here today. He actually lives near Dayton, Ohio, and due to some scheduling conflicts, it's mostly my fault, he's unable to be here. And Chris stepped up at the last minute and decided to drive all the way down from Rockford to join me on this podcast. So I really do appreciate it, man.
My pleasure.
It's awesome.
Absolutely my pleasure.
In fact, you guys obviously don't know this, but Chris recently celebrated a birthday. How old are you, Chris?
Really?
Yeah, how old are you, Chris?
A lot. No, I just turned 35.
35 years old. Everybody say happy birthday, Chris. And Chris, I brought you a little present.
Oh, yeah?
I did buy you a present. Chris is the biggest Madden fan I know, so he's got a copy of Madden 17 as a birthday gift from me to him. So,
yay!
Football fans. And that's just kind of a taste of the kinds of things that we do in our community. We're very community-driven. We actually had a community member donate a copy of like Far Cry 4. Far Cry 4.
Yeah, 4. Mm-hmm.
Just gave it away. Brand new member and came in and said, who wants this? And did a little game and gave it away. We've got the greatest community. If you check out our Facebook group, we've got a really awesome group over there, and everyone gets along great. So thanks again, Chris, for being here. Happy birthday, man. I love you.
This is great. Thank you. I love you, too.
Well, before we get into the games that Chris and I have been playing, we want to talk just one brief news topic. We learned this week that 2 video game franchises are actually going to be getting movie adaptations. The first is an indie title called Firewatch. And this one might not be known by a whole lot of people. It's an indie-developed game. It was originally released on PS4 and PC back in February, but it also got an Xbox One release this past week. Chris, did you ever get a chance to play Firewatch?
I did not, unfortunately. I'm an Xbox One gamer, so PS4 and PC kind of escaped my, gaming lexicon. I know it just got released a couple of weeks ago, so I looked into it a little bit. It does look interesting. It's more like a roamer type, game.
Yeah, it falls under what Zach from our show hates it when I say this phrase, but we call it a walking simulator, where you're not shooting anybody. It's basically a story-driven game, and in the game you play a guy out in either the Colorado or Wyoming forest, and you are a fire watcher. You go out in a tower and you sit and watch for fires. And while that sounds boring on the surface, there's a really cool story that goes with it. And the really interesting dynamic is that you really have very little interaction with anybody. Your only real communication with any person is a girl named Delilah, who you only talk to over the radio.
Yeah.
And it's just very, very interesting. There's a mystery going on. And in fact, we actually got a chance to interview Sissy Jones. You can see her picture up on the monitors here. She's one of the voice actors from the game. She plays Delilah. On our last episode, we got a chance to talk to her. It was a very, very cool experience for us. So if you haven't heard of the game, I highly recommend checking it out. I think you'll actually dig it.
I'm actually looking forward to it.
But we learned that they're going to be making a movie of this, which is really interesting to me because the game is you only have interaction with one person. I'm trying to figure out how that would work in a movie because
they did it in Castaway.
That's true. It worked in Castaway. There's some other movies that did that where you have very little interaction, but a lot of people are saying that this could be the one video game that gets translated to a movie that might actually work. I know we got Assassin's Creed coming.
Yes.
But I'm still not hopeful for that. I was, but the more I see it, I'm not too hopeful. But what do you think?
I think this falls into the the untouchable that you don't turn a video game into a movie. There have been so many disappointments.
Really?
Oh God, are you kidding?
No,
Super
no,
Mario Brothers, Mortal Kombat. They're either really bad or they kind of go on off into our own tangent, like Resident Evil.
You don't throw it out the baby with the bathwater just because a bunch of people made a bunch of mistakes.
But there were a lot of mistakes.
There were a lot of
I can't think
mistakes.
of one that was like stand out. Oh my God, I got to see it again.
Right, but there was also a lot of mistakes in comic book movies, and look where those are now.
Yeah. Oh, that's true.
So, and that's kind of my dream, is I want video game stories to be that mainstream in the future that comic book movies are now, multi-billion dollars. So.
I agree. I'd love to see that too. It just we're waiting for somebody to get it right.
Exactly. There's one other game that we found out is still in production to be made into a movie, and that is a Portal. Which, if you guys are familiar with the Portal series, it's one of my all-time favorite series. That game is just ridiculously fun. It's about a girl named Shell. You play Shell, and she's trapped in a series of puzzles, basically, like test chambers. And there's this villain that's like this artificial intelligence. What's her name? GLaDOS, and she's like taunting you the whole time, and it's got a really interesting story. That one I'm actually even more excited for than Firewatch. What do you think?
Well, it actually makes a lot of references when you think of HAL and like a Space Odyssey, and how that was able to be like projected into such like an eerie, evil character.
Right.
And we already know this is going to be one, and if they can kind of compound that onto the 21st century in this kind of genre, it could be very interesting.
Absolutely, and you got the same component we have with Firewatch in that Shell never speaks, first off, in that game. Your only dialogue you have is from GLaDOS that talks to you, and she's talking at you, but you don't interact with her.
Right.
You come across some audio recordings and that kind of thing, and I don't know how that would play into the game, but J.J. Abrams is supposed to be on board with it. That's what's really interesting to me. J.J. Abrams, Star Wars,
Star Trek series,
Lost.
yes. Oh, he's all over those epic adventures, and to have a character like that has so minimal verbal dialogue and try to express themselves, in pure emotion, I think that's one of the great tricks in movie making. Not to plug the Hollywood Outsider, but I mean,
hey, dude, I'm on that show. It's okay. Plug all you want.
I'll plug that all the way. So it'd be an interesting development.
Definitely. All right, well, that's all we're going to touch on for news now. I want to talk about the games we've been playing. And Chris, you finished the game this week, and you started a new one as well, correct?
You weren't floored when that happened?
I know.
The first time ever Scott Clark is floored on this show that I finished a game.
Yeah, Chris kind of has a reputation of never finishing games. He's got a stack about as tall from the floor to here. Yeah, exactly, right?
It goes about 7 platforms, so it's up to my ceiling now. My wife's ready to kill me.
I used to work at a small mom-and-pop game shop up in Rockford, and Chris decided to sell off a bunch of his games. It took me about a half an hour to process all those, because he doesn't sell them ever, and he just finally is like, screw it, I'm bringing this in, and
Who do you think initialized the sale?
What's that?
Who do you think initialized the sale?
I did.
Wrong.
I'm kind of good at sales.
No, my wife did.
Your wife did? Well,
yeah.
Go figure. Your wife wanted you to get rid of some video games.
It's the games or the couch. As strong as I am as... Anyways.
Well, what game did you finish?
I finished Deus Ex Mankind Divided.
Okay, I have not got a chance to play that one yet. Is it good?
Very, and I'll tell you what, I loved Human Revolution. I got a lot of sneers in the gaming community for that because it kind of gets a bad rap, and this is exactly what it is. And I think Mankind Divided, for those hardcore lovers of the series, took it to another level.
Okay.
So anybody new coming in could just really get into this, and I did not stop playing this game.
So I don't have to play the last one to really know what's going on.
It'll give you a recap.
Okay.
That's one great thing about it. It gives you a brief recap of the important stuff, so it carries you right into the story. You can just go.
Very
I thought
cool.
I'm not going to put any spoilers out there. I thought the ending was a little bit weak.
Okay.
But the only thing I'll say is watch the credits.
Oh, okay. Watch the credits.
All the way to the end, because this guy is a gamer score whore when it comes to Xbox.
That's true.
So you actually get gamer points for watching.
Oh, really?
But there's something in there, and that's all I'm going to say.
Okay.
Just check it out. You won't be disappointed.
Well, talk to me about Recore, because I know you've been playing that one, which is an Xbox and PC exclusive.
Yep, that's right. It's developed by Microsoft Studios, by Kenji Infunani, who is... Did I say that right?
Keiji Inafune.
My apologies, San, for that, who is the brainchild behind the Mega Man series, my favorite gaming series of all time, so that it instantly got me excited about Recore, and then I started playing it. Because it's a nice open world exploration game, bringing back some of the elements of Metroid. There's dungeons in the game which bring back elements of Legend of Zelda,
I
which
got
I
some
thought was
Super Mario
interesting.
64 in it a little bit with the prism cubes that you got to collect. You have so many to open another door.
I was wondering, we were talking about that, and it's like how you made that connection, but that makes perfect sense
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
And you mentioned it like that. That's absolutely true. It's clunky though. The combat's kind of repetitive. It's kind of like going towards a beacon versus actually exploring. It's got a lot of potential, but it's just fallen short in a lot of areas. Now I'm only on the second dungeon,
okay.
So I haven't gotten really deep into it, but I'm struggling to keep going, but I'll go as far as I can because I got to floor you again. It's
sure.
like I finished one. I'm on a trend here. I got to keep it going.
Exactly. Well, I'm struggling to play it too, but not so much because the quality of the game. I like it a little bit more than you do, I think. I think it really scratches that old school gaming itch. It feels like a PS2 game, but with current graphics.
Yeah, I'll buy that.
But the biggest reason I've been struggling is because I keep we're in the fall season where the new games are coming out, and there's so much new stuff coming out right now.
Yes.
And the game that I've been playing is Forza Horizon 3, which I'm going to have you navigate that for me real quick to get me back there. Forza Horizon 3 just came out on Tuesday, and first off, I got a fantastic deal on it.
Oh my God, yes you did.
Target done messed up last night. This game is a $60 game, and they accidentally sold it for $20 last night for about 20 minutes, and I was lucky enough to snag one, so I got the game for $20. And it's crazy how into this game I am because I'm not a car game guy except for Burnout. Burnout's like pretty much one of the only games I play.
I am pining for another one of those.
And Forza Horizon, the series, is kind of meshes the world between Burnout and something like a sim racer, like original Forza or Gran Turismo. And I've actually got some pictures up on the screen here. I know a lot of you guys aren't into games here, but look at that screenshot. That is an actual shot from the game during gameplay. I know our YouTube viewers can't see this, but that sky looks outstanding. It looks like you're standing outside.
The textures are amazing. It's unbelievable.
And it's an open world game, so you get to kind of drive from place to place a little bit too, which is amazing. And I've never liked that in open world games. I love it in Forza. I just want to, and it takes place in Australia, which is kind of like on my bucket list of places I want to visit.
Right.
So I feel like I'm living that dream a little bit, even though it's in a digital world. But I absolutely love this game. There is so much to do.
Okay, let me stop you right there.
Okay.
All right, because my order got canceled.
Yes, it did.
Because they fumbled on this thing, and I was angry. I'm still angry.
You
and
kind of hate me a little bit right
with this microphone. Yes. But no, it's from what it looks gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous.
Fantastic. So those are the games we've been playing. We're going to go right to our community topic, as we mentioned at the top of the show. But before I do, I want to give a quick shout-out. Our listeners know this. Chris knows this, but those of you out here in the audience don't know this. I'm also an elementary teacher back at home for my big boy job. But also I also coach cross-country at a high school in Rockford. And we had a meet today out in Freeport, which I came straight from there to here. And everybody is right now on the bus on the way back to the high school,
right?
And they're all watching it on their phones while we do this. So I got to give a shout out to my cross country team. Where's the camera? Is it over here?
Right there
over
too.
Here. Hey guys, hope you guys did well. All right.
They're like, thanks, coach.
So as we mentioned, Chris and I are both huge Nintendo fans. We're both excited about the upcoming release of the NES Classic Edition, which just came in. Is going to be out here in time for Christmas. I'm going to let you do that. It's going to be here in time for Christmas. And Chris, for those that might not have heard about this quote-unquote new console, can you kind of explain exactly what this is and why people should be excited about it?
Well, if anybody knows the history of Nintendo, and any gamer out there knows what a Nintendo is, what it looks like, what it does, and this unit that they're coming out with is absolutely fantastic. It literally fits in the palm of your hand.
Yep.
Which is a nice little addition there.
And you guys should see the picture there. They've got the original system right next to the new one. Look how smaller that is.
That's the other. Well, if you look at that picture too in a console, but the controller is a 1-to-1 replica, which I love. So it just go right back into your childhood, right there with the controller in your hands.
Will it hold up as well when I throw it against the wall when I get frustrated with playing one of those old school games, though?
I doubt it. Yeah? I'm worried about that myself. I'm not going to lie. But even though it keeps the old school generation with the hardware, the video connections keep current with the HDMI connection, and it has a USB mini for a power connection, which tells me it does not eat a lot of juice, which means there's going to be longevity in the unit, which is very nice. Mm-hmm. I saw some leaked photos of the menu design when it comes to the games, and it's actually very, very simple as far as resolution you can watch, games you can play, saves you can feature, and it even has an 8-bit backdrop on it, which was really cool.
Really
so
cool.
It really throws you back, though, so it really goes back to the old days.
Man, the resolution looks a lot better, too. I saw some side-by-side comparisons of it yesterday. It looks much crisper and clearer and brighter.
But if you don't want that crisper, it has a CRT option.
Oh,
you
really?
You can actually go in and actually look at it like you were looking at your old, Zenith or Curtis Mathis TV, which I had.
Kind of like you could with the Halo Master Chief Edition, where you could switch back to the old school graphics and the current graphics.
Exactly.
I like that.
It's really cool. It's really cool.
Very cool.
And like I said, for a game like Metroid, that's part of this Connect collection. It has a game save feature, so I don't have to worry about having to backtrack or write down passwords or anything like that.
Do you remember Justin Bailey anymore?
No, thank God for that.
Well, our community is also very excited about this release, in particular the game lineup. One of our listeners, Brandon Linker, said it's worth it for Zelda alone. Mario Reyes from the community says that Super Mario Bros. 3 is his favorite game ever, and Ty Nelson is excited about Tecmo Bowl. Now, all three of these games are included in the package. I've actually brought copies of them here. So you guys remember these old school cartridges? There's Zelda, there's Super Mario Bros. 3, there's Tecmo Bowl, and I've also got Excite Bike, which is also included. But what else is on this package?
You know, it's funny. Somebody here just mentioned they each had to blow in them, which is like the nice little feature there. I read a blog about the QA blog about this new system, and one of the funniest answers I read was to talk about blowing in the cartridges is that some things are better left in the 80s.
Yes.
And that was one of them. So I mean, I'm very glad for that. But the game lineup is absolutely fantastic. It has the entire Super Mario Bros. Series, sans the Lost Levels, a.k.a. non-Doki Doki Panic.
Yes.
My favorite game of all time, which is Mega Man 2.
Yes, you got some speed runs on that game, don't you?
4305. 4305 from start to Wily Kill, so I'm holding on to that one. We talked about Metroid before. It has Final Fantasy, which is one of the stellar RPG launches of all time. It has Punch-Out, Dr. Mario, Castlevania. There's 30 games in total. It's really fantastic. It's a great lineup.
Yeah, so definitely check that out. And the price point, it's only $60.
That's insane.
$60 gets you the console, gets you all 30 games, and you get to play them whenever you want to, and you don't have to worry about. It's just HDMI right
When
up there.
you consider that when the NES market on your Wii and Wii U, that these are $5 each.
Exactly.
And this console is $60 hardware and games. That's less than $2 a game. That's not. And I mean, I'm not a sell boy for Nintendo. I mean,
right.
Might get some royalties for plugging that for them, but no, that's really an incredible value.
Absolutely. Well, before we wrap up, we got some community responses. We actually each week post a question on our Facebook page, which you can find at facebook.com, search for The Gaming Outsider. And each week we post a question and have our community respond to it, and we read those responses on the show. And our first one comes from Brandon Linker, who I mentioned earlier. He says, "It's smaller. I don't know why, but I'm a little disappointed. The game experience will be the same, but I kind of feel like this is a situation where it hasn't gotten small, you've gotten bigger isn't quite appropriate. Since they went to the trouble to make it look almost identical to the original, I figured it would be the same size." I gotta say, I actually disagree with this.
I do too.
Because I feel like I have enough game stuff on my shelf and I'm running out of shelf space. I like the idea that it's compact. I like that if I want to take it to my buddy's house, I can stick it in a laptop bag instead of lugging around like a big Xbox One or a PS4 or something like that. I like the smaller size.
Well, you mentioned the Xbox One is that one of the big knocks on it is it was such a huge console, the original, when it came out.
Right.
So to see this so compact and so easy to transport, I could imagine, Christmas and New Year's, there's going to be some gaming if somebody got one on their shelf, to get
Absolutely.
that, to transport that and connect that, and being so easy to do that, I think it's a great idea because, share with the gaming world.
Absolutely. Why don't you go ahead and read the next comment for us?
Well, this comes from John Sislow from the...
Josh Sislow.
What did I say, John?
You said John.
Josh, my bad. He says that he is super excited about them releasing this console, that he never owned an NES since they were a Sega family, but his best friend at the time had an NES. He is excited to play games that I never got to play and play those again that he did play. He did have a question, though, and he wasn't able to find out, but will it read cartridges? Because if it could, that would be cool. Or will there be another way to go beyond the 30 games included? Scouring the archives of everything having to do with this console, unfortunately, there are no abilities to read the cartridges, and everything is built in, and the 30 means 30, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's the one downside about
Yes.
this. Well, there's a second one we'll talk about in just a second, but yeah, you get your 30 games, you can't plug in any old cartridges, you can't download any others, that's all you get.
Yep.
But still, it's $60. It's hard to argue that and complain about it, so... Exactly. There's over 600 of them. Actually, Rob, you'll appreciate this. I collect these. I've got over 600 of them at home right now. I still have the original console, so I can still play them. It's not like you don't have the option to play those old ones. You just can't play it on the new one. So, and even if you want one of the originals, they're like $50. So they're getting up there though. They're getting harder and harder to find. So, another community member, Andrew Jack, says, "I'm excited for it to come out. I plan on buying 2. The only concern I have is the 4-foot length of wire for the controller. I think we're kind of spoiled nowadays with the wireless technology that we've got with our controllers.
Yes.
We're not used to being tethered to the console like we were when we were kids.
Right.
But yeah, 4 feet seems really small. I'm a good 6 or 8 feet from my TV. I got a big 52-inch screen, so I don't know what I'm going to do with that. I'm going to have to rig the console so it's right next to my couch or something.
Well, I think the beauty of that is with the HDMI connection is those come in all sizes, 10 feet, 50 feet, whatever. So you can compensate for that. So that shouldn't be a big deal.
Absolutely.
Mike Miller has talked about that the NES is the greatest console ever made in the history of gaming, and that he absolutely cannot wait for this to drop. He predicts a day one sellout and a frenzy like we haven't seen since old ladies were boxing over the last Cabbage Patch Kid at Children's Palace. Okay. The bigger question is, will the NES Classic Controller Series include the Max and Advantage at some point? The Nintendo website hints there may be more than just the regular controller. Now, all I've seen for sure is that the Wii Pro controllers will be compatible with this unit. So you have the current gen type controller styles, analogs. Yep. You will be able to play with these games. I haven't seen anything about the Max and Advantage, and I had an Advantage. I had the big Joy. Oh,
I've got one I actually bought in the past couple years, but I have one in my collection.
That is my go-to. So if they did, that'd be great.
But speaking of it being a frenzy, have you pre-ordered one yet?
No.
I pre-ordered one. Apparently, Target is my friend recently because I got one on reserve at Target right now. I'm kind of like Andrew, who's talking about buying two. The idea of having one wrapped and keeping. I'm that guy that does this weird.
You are that
collections,
guy. That is true.
But speaking of controllers, Ethan Langford also wrote in and asked a question. Will there be wireless controllers via Bluetooth, plug-in receiver, etc.? And if not, is it possible for third-party support, or is that blocked? Now, knowing Nintendo, it's probably blocked. Let's be honest.
Probably.
Right? But as of right now, there's no word on any of that. Like he said, Nintendo was hinting at it, but with as tight-lipped as they've been about things, especially with the NX lately, we're kind of in a wait-and-see mode right now.
I would like to think that they would address that once the games get played and people get familiar with, hey, why don't you do this, that they would do that, but time will tell.
Absolutely.
All right. Lastly, Jonathan Spears says that he's excited for it. It will be a great starter console for the kids. He started with the SNES, and then it was perfect, and not too many buttons, not super graphic content. He sees them selling like hotcakes. A great price point, too, for people to get back into games.
I couldn't agree more. My only issue with the console itself is I wish it had a RCA, or what do you call those cables? I wish it had that option, and I'll tell you why. Because I actually have video game consoles in my classroom, in my fourth grade classroom. They use it for indoor recess and stuff. This would be an awesome thing to show my kids. These are the games that Mr. Clark played when he was a kid. You know what I'm saying?
It's a public school system. They don't have anything beyond RCA TVs?
Well, I have a smart board in my classroom, which is like a giant touchscreen, and it doesn't take HDMI. Oh. So I don't have anything HDMI. If this only takes HDMI, I can't do that.
Too bad you don't know a tech guy that can hook you up.
Oh, yeah, like a little converter adapter or something? Man, that'd be awesome. So what about you? You're obviously excited, but...
Yes, very much.
He started with the SNES. I'm excited for someone that hasn't played these to go back and see how they hold up as someone that's playing them for the first time.
And it's interesting that you mentioned it as a great starter console for the kids, because when we were kids, this was it. This was our Xbox One. This was the greatest thing since sliced bread. And if anybody gamers that have kids now that you want to start them on this system, I think it's a great starting point to kind of get them to the concept of video games and how they work before blasting them with such graphic content, violent content that can be in these games that everybody worries about. That these games had never ever crossed that threshold. So I think that's a great starter point for them.
Totally. I think the difficulty spike might be something though, because I feel like modern games really do kind of hold your hand a little bit more than they did back in the day. Granted, they're not going to have to worry about the password systems. They can do a save point whenever they want to, so they have that. But
they've got it too good now. We didn't have any of this. It's too good for them.
Right, we had to figure it out. If you didn't get the instruction manual in the rental from the video store, you had no idea how to play the game. You just had to figure it out.
And if you did, it was a treasure trove. Yeah. Oh my God, it was the best thing ever.
Thankfully, there were only 2 buttons to have to figure out.
Oh, thank God for that.
I actually read an interesting story a few months ago about a guy that decided to raise his kid, introducing them to video games the same way that he was introduced to them. So he actually started them on the Atari 2600 and then the NES and SNES and worked his way up into modern consoles. And there were people that wrote in and were complaining and calling it like child abuse or something like that. He wouldn't allow them to play current games. He made them play the original old school games. What do you think about that?
My eyes are rolling over and over again. I'm getting dizzy. But to mention what you were talking about with the Atari, when you talk about the Atari, because this isn't something new that's in the video game community. There have been other systems, like the Atari 2600 that had the classic controller that in itself had, 50 games built into it. I think Sega did one of those too.
They've got another one coming out too as well.
Mm-hmm. So but I've never seen one just explode like this one, I think, is going to. And the marketing behind it, it's been more like internet-based than anything else, but it's
totally
out there.
I mean, I've seen people post this on Facebook that I didn't even know played video games today, much less back in the day. And they're excited about it. This is going to be huge. This is going to be the toy item for Christmas this year. And
Can you imagine that? Something that's over 30 years old is going to be the hot item for Christmas? That's
Absolutely.
Great. That's
Very
great.
Good. Well, thank you to everybody who wrote in. We had Ethan, Andrew, Brandon, Mike, Jonathan, and Josh. Thanks so much for the comments. We do appreciate it. But that is going to do it for this episode of The Gaming Outsider. I'd like to thank my special guest, Chris, for being here.
Absolutely fantastic. Great
Everybody
time.
give Chris a round of applause. He came all the way down here.
Thank you, yes.
And until next time, I'm Scott Clark. I'm with The Gaming Outsider, and I'd like to remind you one more time, there's no such thing as a bad game, just games that aren't for you. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.